yeah, thanks for asking me. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Is that right? Can you hear me? Yeah? No? Is that better? Yeah? Alright, okay. I'm an addict and my name's Tara.
Hi, Tara.
And sometimes I say that and sometimes I say my name's Tara, I'm an addict. You know, in this lockdown, I don't know about you, but I heard new information about recovery and it really kind of pricked my ears open again. And yeah, so sometimes I say I'm Tara, I'm an addict. Sometimes I say I'm an addict and my name's Tara. And it doesn't really matter. I just need to say that. It doesn't really matter. But what I heard a guy share on, who was one of our founders, is he says addict first, with that principle of, you know, principles for personalities, and he says his name second, and I quite like that, but I don't remember to do it all the time, so I remembered today, probably because I'm really in self and very conscious. So I've been asked to come and share on recovery and relapse, and it feels such a privilege to be asked to share, to be welcome, to be part of, and I want to say, if there's anybody new here, as much as this sounds like a load of shite, I really love you, and we really love each other, and that is the guiding principle, that we recover together. Relapse doesn't have to be part of the journey. You don't need that jarring experience to recover. Some people don't make it back, but it's a big part of my story. Not for many years, but it is a part of my story. And sometimes my head goes, oh, maybe I need a fucking jarring experience again. Nonsense. I just need to put a bit more effort in. You know, I am shortcuts all the way, and it's like, oh God, I need to do a bit more for my recovery. I don't like what my sponsors just told me. I don't like what I'm seeing in my step 10. Maybe I need to just explode, have a load of carnage and chaos. I need a jarring experience. I don't. I've had the jarring experience. I need to stay and be part of. So, with that in mind, my first introduction to NA was not far from here, so my hometown is Cheltenham, and yeah, anyone else from Cheltenham? Yay! Oh, brilliant, a few of us. Wow, okay. And these lovely people came and collected me and took me to some meetings, and you know, they were great. I don't remember anything about what they shared. I didn't hear anything. But I knew how I felt when I was with these people, and they didn't judge me. I'd have a 1 mil falling out of my back pocket, I'd have bloody citric, you know, I was just like walking chaos, and they just kept picking me up and taking me to this meeting once a week on a Tuesday night at St Greg's, and then I got into a bit of trouble, and then I really heard about NA. I was made to go into a treatment centre, and I absolutely hated it. I can't even tell you. I despised everything about it. I took my mum's clothing because I was yellow. Oh, and my throat had been, I was just in a mess, and I thought I'm going to have to fight to keep any decent clobbers, so I'm taking her stuff because they can nick that. And when I went in there, they were all well dressed, they were hoovering and making tea, and oh my God, I mean, I can't, my skin was crawling, and of course it wasn't me, there's nothing wrong with me, it was like I'm in the wrong place. And then I saw the steps, and I saw step 3, and that was it. I checked out. I'll be honest, I have a God of my understanding. I truly know that there is a loving power, but I just struggle talking about it, and I feel a bit sick when people talk about God, even though I know it's true, yeah? Even though I know that it's a spiritual program, I just feel a bit icky. And so when I saw that on the wall, it was like my mind was so closed, it's like I need to be a nun. What they're asking me to do is to be a nun. If you're going to hand your will and your life over to the care of God, this is either a load of shit or it's a cult and I'm going to end up being a nun. And funny enough, I wanted to be a nun when I was little. And yeah, so along with my closed-mindedness, so I was desperate, but I was dishonest and I was closed-minded and I was unwilling. So my desperation wasn't enough at that time. And then a guy came in from a place called Stepney. I'd never been to Stepney. And God, he was so attractive. So I also didn't know that about this illness, you know. And so obviously I left with him. And yeah, God, I'll tell you what, Stepney, well, I've never been nowhere like that. Yeah, so, you know, and within a week I hated this fella. It's mad, isn't it? You know, when the drugs are initially taken away and you're raw, and you think, oh my God, this is the one, it doesn't take long. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't stand this guy. So that was, you know, everything's kind of hindsight, isn't it? So I learned a little bit more about the illness. You know, I didn't know I was learning about the illness till I came back. So, you know, a little touch of love from fellowship was really attractive to me. I went into this treatment gaff, over. And then I ended up in a psychiatric hospital. I'd bitten somebody, and the agreement was that as long as I wasn't HIV, he wasn't going to press charges. He was the landlord of our pub. I'd known him since I was little. I don't know, I was off my nut on dikes and blacked out and bitten. And anyway, so I went to this unit, and still no mention, you know, of NA in these units. And I had this wonderful social worker, I'll never forget her. She was about 3 foot tall, and she took me all over the country to different rehabs, and I didn't like any of them. We went to Birmingham, we went to the New Forest. I went anywhere but 12-step. Don't fucking take me anywhere near that 12-step. And God love her, I didn't like any of them, and I ended up in a foster care place for adults in Blackbird Leys. That was another great place, I'll tell you. And then I moved to Bournemouth, and I started seeing people from that little 3-4 weeks I did in that treatment centre, and they were happy, they looked well. I'm trying to get a crisis loan out of the dole, and you know, my idea was, as long as I don't meet too many people that are using, I'll get my gear sent down so I don't meet too many people, and I'll just control my using in this new town. And didn't work, obviously. But I started seeing people, and they started taking me to meetings, and it started to look attractive again. And I thought, I love that NA. Them people, they are just, but it was still them people. I still was looking at differences too much and not the similarities. And it's amazing, because I did it in here yesterday. You know, my mind can just twist and go on to differences, and then it's like, I don't think I should do that show, I don't think I should be here. And then it's like, you know, ask the changing, ask the thinking to change. And then, you know, I'm back in the moment, I'm back in the middle. Bournemouth, you know, Bournemouth's where my recovery has grown. I'm not going to go into every single relapse because we'll be here for too long. But you know, I started to feel connection. I started to feel love, and I started trying again. And I went into our local detox, which was great in them days. It was a beautiful big mental hospital on Camford Cliffs, which is really posh. Great for a little graft. And you went in for 6 weeks. Yeah, you actually yellow book, you saved your money, you got a decent pair of trainers on the day you got out, and NA came in religiously every week. They were reliable, dependable, they turned up, and I believed in it. But what I never told anyone was I believed I could use the day I got out, and then I go to NA the next day, and I plan it all, you know, and it wasn't even about because I was that sick. It's because yeah, I'm going to use the day I get out, and then the next day I'm going to that NA because I fucking love what's on offer there. But I didn't get it. I didn't get that it's the first one. It's the first one that does the damage. So I was unable to have the whole change, you know, the process of changing my thinking and my spirit because I had the reservation and I didn't see it as a problem because I believed my bullshit. Hence that kept me going in and out of this cycle for a long time. And in that time, you know, I had a baby. I fucking loved my baby. I got stable on methadone, and I thought that was it. You know, I'm just one of them that's going to have to stay on methadone. And I, again, you know, it didn't work. Substitution does not work for us. And you know, my son was taken off me. All the consequences that we go through, and I surrendered. I went into a day program, and I surrendered to this program. I knew that I couldn't use once. It had taken me 12 years from being aware of NA to actually completely surrendering to my way doesn't work, and I surrendered. And in that process, I got to 13 months clean. In that process, I had to hand myself in for a warrant. I went to prison. I didn't use. I laid my dad's ashes. I didn't use. You know, this programme, I went into Ewing of Eastwood Park, if anybody knows it, with my basic text, and I had God love her, you know, people, you know, may she rest in peace, you know, my bestie Polly, knocking on my door, what you got? Woohoo! You know, like, oh, told you. And it's like, I've got my basic text. And that basic text kept me clean in that sentence. And I stayed clean. And I started to have hope. And I started to believe that I could build a life, that I didn't have to have the degradation, the rock bottoms, the loneliness, the shame of my using. And I was on my step 4. Now there's nothing wrong with that. I was resentful. I lived each step, yeah, so I came out and I cracked on with the steps, and I'm on my step 4, and I'm in my resentment around my son and the people who are caring for him. Now that's okay, that's part of the process. We get through that. But what I did was, instead of keeping myself safe with you guys, I took myself up to Bolton where my son was living to see him at Christmas, fucking resentful against these people. My thinking hadn't changed enough. Now I know, my God, what an awful situation, you know. I was incapable of looking after my son. They stepped in. I set that rolling. They didn't do anything. They didn't come and get him. You know, I left him. I thought I'd gone out for a crack pipe one night. I come back a month later. I didn't know I'd been gone that long. Yeah. So I went up there and I couldn't manage my feelings. And I didn't listen. Everyone said to me, don't go there, Tara, you're fucked up. You need to stay here with us, where we love you. There's plenty of time to rebuild that relationship. Give yourself time to heal. Give them time. Yeah, not all about me. They didn't really want me there. It was really obvious they didn't want me there. Give them time to heal. My impatience, you know, it is so true. Our defects will put us into a corner we cannot get out of clean. I was impatient, I was intolerant, I was loathing of me, of them. You know, I hadn't had enough time to untwist the damage. And I went up there, and my sister-in-law said, what do you want? I said, oh, fucking spite me, I'll have half a pint of vodka, topped up with Caliber. So I look normal. Yeah, and I sat at this table with the mother-in-law with half a pint of vodka and topped up with Caliber, trying to look normal. Fucking hell. And I was having regular hair analysis, psychiatric assessments, you know, all this stuff to try and have more contact with my son. And that was a bit of a power greater, that hair analysis, because I knew I couldn't use what I wanted to use. But fucking hell, that was just, it was like having naltrexone. It was horrendous, you know. I wanted more, but I couldn't, because if I did that, my life was completely over. So, alcohol's a drug, you know. I drank for a few months, and just so painful, being in the middle of recovery, trying to keep a lid, like trying to control this beast by taking alcohol. The next morning I had whiskey tea. Like, I was brought up on whiskey tea as a kid, you know. We always had a little bit of Jameson's in the teapot. I was straight back to that. Oh God, and I was just so, I'd had a glimpse of what was on offer. My spirit was starting to open. I was starting to be loving, and I short-circuited the process. I put myself in enemy territory, and I relapsed, knowing everything that I knew, knowing that, you know, my using takes me to homelessness, prison, street working, kamikaze, sharing the, you know, how it is. Knowing all that, knowing I can't use once, knowing all of that, I relapsed, and I stopped listening. People said to me, "Do not go there for Christmas, you're not well." I want to see my boy. You know, I hadn't been allowed to see him in prison. They didn't want to bring him down. It was on my first tag off, first bit of freedom. And you know, thank God really for people in this fellowship, because, you know, HIP, it's also important, you know, because other people kept me coming back. Other people held me. What are you doing? You know, what are you doing? Other people held me, and I came back, and I've now stayed. And I'm going to say this. I hope it doesn't sound ego, because it isn't for that reason. It's for the reason that I've just spoke a lot about the damage, the relapse, the lack of principles in my life. You know, I've stayed clean a day at a time through working this programme, am I shouting? Living this programme, you know, for 19 years. Yeah. I don't want to feel in words, but I've got a feels. And I like what your man said earlier about the t-shirt thing, because I think that I'm not going to go walking my dog in an NA t-shirt, because I get into rows over my dog and other people's dog. I'm at war with this woman over the heath at the moment with an Alsatian that doesn't know how to approach my dog. And I really try hard not to get in the ring with her, but every fucking morning I see her. And I said to her, "You were really abusive to me the other day." She went, "You deserve it." And I thought, "You don't know me, she's a lunatic." She's a lunatic, this big Alsatian. Anyway, so I kind of think that, you know, I never want to bring NA into disrepute. I want people to recover, which is why it's about the principles and not the personalities. A lot of people don't like me in Bournemouth. You know, I was an arsehole. I was an arsehole in early recovery. I'm learning about, am I all right? I'm learning, you know, more and more. The journey is that we continue to learn and grow. But I get it wrong, and I have a programme. It's not, oh, I'll just go and work at step 9. It's not like, you know, I was brought up and you can get away with anything as long as you confess it and do your do. You know, that isn't how it works for us, is it? You know, we want to grow. But I'm mindful of not bringing NA into disrepute, so I wouldn't wear an NA t-shirt, walking the dog, driving the car, the situations where I'm likely to kick off. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, so I kind of, you know, that's learning, isn't it? And I try and treat everybody with love and tolerance. That's my goal. I don't always hit it, but that's my daily goal. Not cause harm, treat everybody with love and tolerance. And I'm going to end it with this. So I had an operation. I was cut open, bits and bobs taken out, and I left the hospital with oral morph, and I popped it in the back of the cupboard. Didn't even think about it. Like popped it in the back of the cupboard, and then we went into lockdown. And I started hearing about all these different books and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, well, I'm going to get a sponsor who's done it through this book. And the magic of this programme is I'm on the computer, and there's 3 of us doing a step 1, reading literature and doing step 1. Now this normal's been in the cupboard for months, I've forgotten. And but my disease I haven't forgotten. Yeah, so we're reading this step 1, and all of a sudden I've gone, oh my God, I've got a bottle of oral morph in the kitchen cupboard. And they've gone, wow, that's random. Where did that come from? I went, I don't know. And it's the power of step 1. It's the power of working with other addicts, with our literature. It was like, oh my God, I forgot about that in the cupboard. And they went, right, okay, pour it out now. I was like, oh God, hang on a minute. And I did, even though I'd forgotten about it, it was in the cupboard, it was like I poured it out. And I just want to say that this disease is so powerful. It blindsides us. For me, I've got to stick close to the programme, close to the people working the programme, living the programme. And it will be all right. It will be better than all right. Whatever life's got to hold for us as individuals and us as groups is phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, families are broken down over this COVID stuff. Shall we get the jab? Shall we not? We've flourished. We've grown. I mean, how mad is that? Everything else is falling apart because we've got traditions. More and more people are coming in, and I've just got to say, I've seen loads of people on Zoom, and it's really nice to see us in our clothes, isn't it? Because I saw someone, and I went, oh yeah, look, we're not in our pyjamas today. It's really lovely. I hope someone's got something from my share, and if I haven't, there's loads of other people sharing. There's opportunities now through technology, as much as I don't like it, to do meetings all over the world every minute of the day. I mean, how cracking is that? Personally, I want to give a quick shout out to the Swansea lot. Yeah, I love the Welsh. I tend to go into the accent quite a lot because I just love the accent and love the Welsh. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
We have got another share coming up straight away. If you want to go out downstairs or to get a coffee, can you please do it quietly? Because we have got another share coming straight after. So I'd like to hand the mic over to John, who's going to share on recovery and relapse too. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
John, I'm an addict.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Can people hear me? I'll just give people a minute to come out, please. Yeah, I'm John, I'm an addict.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
I'm just resisting the urges to just say, fucking shut up. Yeah, I want to thank this committee for putting on the event. It's been a really nice weekend. I should have been in Paris. I'm glad I'm not, you know what I mean, because I'd definitely be a different person today. But thanks for your share, Tara. And I want to thank Mark before he was sharing on BNI, because he's opened my heart a bit, and that's what I needed, you know what I mean, because I'm a very, very emotional addict, me. And, I took drugs to take me away from that, you know what I mean? I used people to take me away from that. I used a lot of things. And when I read this chapter, Recovery and Relapse, I've got my own basic text, when there was just one meeting in Liverpool when I come to that meeting. And it says in our lectures, those who are addicted today are more fortunate. But there's a little part in this that says, just let me see if I can find it. It says, many people think that recovery is simply a matter of not using drugs. They consider relapse a sign of complete failure and long periods of abstinence a sign of success. We in the recovery program of Narcotics Anonymous have found that this perception is too simple to stick. Right, so basically, you know, you hear a lot of addicts in meetings go, I'm a serial relapser, I'm this and things like that. There's no such thing as a serial relapser. You're a serial trier, and if you've survived it, and you're here for a reason, because you know, a lot of people who carry the message to me, but addicts who suffered years and years of relapse. My story doesn't involve a physical relapse. That's not if you're counting food. I've had fucking plenty of them. But it's just, I don't know, I just think, you know, I travel a lot and I go a lot of places. So let me get this watch off. Yeah, I travel a lot, I see a lot, I observe a lot. I'm like most addicts, you know, very switched on. You can see in our lives from a mile away. And Mark was sharing about Bristol. So that part of the fellowship means an awful lot to me, and this part too. You know what I mean? Because it was all one, it was all together. And 19 years ago, I got clean down here on the 17th of April. The 16th of April, I got on a train from Liverpool. I'd just been in prison for, you know, 2 months short of, you know, 15 years, and there was no such thing as way out. There was no such thing of, I don't remember anyone ever saying, let's get clean. That was just like a foreign language. You know what I mean? No one said, oh, let's get clean. Let's engage in recovery and things like that. But I was in prison, and my brother died after his first NA meeting. You know, he went to a meeting with an ex-partner of mine who my mum was trying to help her get off drugs. This is in 1997. That was the 5th of September, 1997. And he had an overdose after that meeting. When I share, sometimes I grab my dad's ring, and it signifies to me the depths of what addiction does and what it takes from us. You know what I mean? So, you know, relapse and recovery, if you just sit there for a moment and you think of the people you've lost to relapse and people who are no longer with us, I don't know what it does to you, but it does an awful lot to me. Because one meeting, and he didn't get to experience, you know, the hope, the joy, the life, the freedom that we live with. And he died, and I was really heavy on my brother. My brother was himself, and that's one thing I could never be. He was dead flamboyant, he was gay. And I mean, growing up in the inner city part of Liverpool, and your brother thinks he's Leroy out of fame. That was hard work, let me tell you. You know, you're running around, you know, with your mates, robbing and things like that as a kid. And your younger brother's coming out in a fucking big pink leotard and red orange in his eyes. And he's going for it, you know what I mean? He's fucking Diana Ross is his favourite fucking idol. Mine was like Reggie Kray and Sweeney and all that shit. And you know, I've spent a lot of time always trying to be someone else. And even when I was someone else, it was never enough. My brother was himself from the word go. And yeah, don't forget that. So if you're in a meeting and you're using, you're in a meeting and you're relapsing, we're here to help. And sometimes the help isn't there. That's what I say. I was listening to Mark sharing about a PI meeting and just three people turning up. So coming out of prison after using from the age of 8 and coming out, you know, and after all that time and, you know, and just being completely dehumanized. It was, you It was what it was, you know what I mean? It was animal level, you know what I mean? But the biggest prison I've ever been in is the prison of my mind, the prison that disease imprisons us of, you know what I mean? And that's without a programme. I can go back there, I can revisit that place anytime, you know what I mean? So, when I was down here and I got clean, it was just like someone turned the telly on. It's like the first time I'd seen the grass. It's like the first time I'd seen the colour of my own skin. It was like the first time I'd ever seen my mother. And I went up there yesterday just to visit it and that, because I remember we used to come to these like little bits of unity days in Western, and I remember Russell, Cathy and all that. And you know, I'm from out of town, and I'd straight away, if you're from Liverpool and someone that's from out of town, you're like, who the fuck are you? You know, all that. But all that stuff had gone. There was people from all different backgrounds, different walks of life welcoming me and inviting me, because I'm very easily judged, you know what I mean? I've got scars all over me. I come from a different place. And, you know, you say don't judge a book by its cover, but I come in here and all these people wanted to know about me. When I come here, it was all the past and all the prisons and all that stuff, and I wasn't interested in all that bullshit. That kind of embarrasses me with the way I used to be. It doesn't embarrass me that I stood up for something, because I'll stand up for something and I'll pay a price for it in here, as I did in my old life. Because if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for everything, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not going to batter you with this basic text, and I'm not going to kill you with it, but the chances are, if you don't read it and you don't do something with it, you'll kill yourself, you know what I mean? So, I had a friend of mine, Lee, and you know, just before the pandemic, he was going through a relationship difficulty, you know what I mean? In our fellowship, we don't tell people not to get into relationships. It says relationships are some of the most painful areas of our life. You know, I've been taken advantage of by women in here. You know. So be careful, lads, right? Be careful. I was 13 stepped when I first come here, and I wasn't complaining, like, you know what I mean? It was just one meeting. And she said, keep coming back, and yeah, I definitely kept coming back. And I was pretending I was clean, and I was on this tablet and that tablet. And my mother she had a mate who worked in the chemist. And I was like that to my mum, Mum, you've got to see your mate, you know. So she got me enough medication to fucking put the cows to sleep forever. You know what I mean? And I was just taking all that medication, and when I say medication, it was like about 10 Tomazis, 20 TFs, loads of Zopiclone, loads of Mogadon, and even to the point where I just, my typical meal then was like a big cereal bowl full up with like clubs, Weetabix, sugar puffs, everything, and just like, you know, falling asleep inside there. I'm trying to get clean, you know what I mean? And nothing ever worked till I got on that train journey and I come down here. But yeah, that meeting that we had in Liverpool, it was just one meeting, and we used to go to the other fellowship AA. And I'm not one of them people here who puts AA down to make NA any better or whatever. We're not in competition with anyone. They were lovely members in there. They used to help us, because I grew up in a pub and a club and a brothel, and some of the all-time alcoholics used to come to our pub. They were all in AA, and they used to come to NA to help addicts in there. And yeah, there's a couple of them used to take me to a meeting in Manchester and things like that. We never had literature on the tables. We had a couple of members. But the girl who 13 stepped me, she was 3.5 years clean. And I used to think she's a fucking lightweight, she doesn't know how to use it and things like that. And yeah, that's what type of addict I was. I was a snob addict. I had to be worse than to feel better than. You know what I mean? And you qualify in here yourself through your own pain. You don't have to go to some of the lengths that some of us have been to. But even though I qualified, I disqualified myself. You know what I mean? Because I was listening to people, and it was like a competition to see who lost the most veins, who ate the most fucking bacon, rubbed the most cheese. And I used to get like shame attacks, when they were talking, I'd go, oh, what's he fucking on about him? What are you saying that for? And that was my version of an addict, was someone who was homeless, who'd done all that type of stuff. But you know, I was an addict myself, and it was enough, the pain I'd been through and what I'd been through. But yeah, you know, it was my mother and my daughter. They were the last bits of my pain, you know, when I couldn't no longer look them in the eye and things like that, you know, wanting to go to like you know, like a Christmas party at the school. I'm, you know, getting ready to go there, but my mate turns up with gear. I'm not going there. I'm just hating myself even more. You know what I mean? So, morally, I always grew up me with this feeling of I'm a failure, I'm never enough, and to get over that, I'd be violent, or I'd act a certain way to mask that. But, you know, this was all stuff I didn't have any understanding of. Well, coming to them meetings, there was a guy called Willie, and he's from Glasgow. And in them days, our basic texts, when you were an addict and you come to the meeting in Liverpool, there used to be a place called Catherine's, and it was a religious shop, and that's where you used to go and buy your basic text. And he took me there, but when I was first coming to meetings, he was homeless, he was on the streets, and he was selling his body. And I went to that meeting, I went to some AA meetings, and my mind's still a little bit clouded to actually, you know, the timing of things. But he got clean. He was a few months clean when I come back to the meetings. You know, because the girl who 13 stepped me, she started using with me, and was like trying to encourage me to get clean. I think it was to try and get rid of the guilt. And she didn't have to feel fucking guilty for it. You know what I mean? But this guy Willie, he helped me, and I got a basic text. I remember reading about it, and this chapter, you know, recovery and relapse, reading that and going, oh, I just want to get clean. I'm an addict, mate. And he went to a few meetings. He was one of them ravaged addicts. He had a white eye, he had half a leg. And he was like something out of fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. And he used to take me to different events. He used to take me to AA conventions and things like that, you know what I mean? To use him, but because he was kind to me and he was thoughtful, I used to go with him. Or I remember going to that Monday night meeting, and one of the members had said he's gone missing. You know what I mean? Because he was always snarling with him. You know what I mean? And I quite like a snarler. I'm not arsed. I mean, I get on with people who snarl a bit. You know what I mean? But he was missing, and we have an Isle of Man ferry in Liverpool. It's like a hydrofoil, and he was found in the dock there, and he was found in 5 different pieces, you know what I mean, where it had gone over him, and then put up. And it shocked me. It shocked me to the point where I sort of felt scared coming into meetings and listening to what I was listening to, and thinking I'm going to die. Little did I realise that I was dying. But it was shortly after that I ended up down here, you know what I mean? So I sat in meetings, mate, in Bristol. I spent 9 months in treatment, and I think I was about 90 days clean. And I got a tea commitment in this meeting in Bristol called St Nick's. And it was in the days, obviously, when everyone was smoking in the meetings, and it was like, you'd walk in the meeting and you'd fucking fall through the floor and things like that. And everyone was up to all kinds. I used to be at mates of mine's houses, and they'd be like bringing cigarettes over, doing all the tobacco runs, grafting and things like that. Well, there was a couple of our Londoners who knew me from jail, and you could see that I was really not wanting to get out. And they'd had loads of relapses. Some of them were still using and whatever, and they sort of veered me away and encouraged me to you know, it says in this book, you know what I mean, recovery is experienced in our 12 steps. This is what we're seeking, not mere abstinence alone. You know, it says members whose dishonesty and self-deceit prevent them from experiencing the recovery. So I was very free, mate, you know, going to places and that, because I'd stopped doing some of the little bits of petty crime that I was doing. which was just like, you know, I joined this gym in Congressbury. There's no grasses in here, is there? And so I took all the thingy cards out the lockers, and I was in Bristol going to a few meetings. I was in the second stage treatment centre, and I was getting like tellies, loads of clothes and everything. I was just sitting in the meetings going, I wonder if I could go in that Bangor Olsen shop on White Ladies Road and things like that. I wasn't telling anyone, you know what I mean? I was just doing it with a mate of mine. He was down there, he wasn't in recovery. And I was sitting in the meetings and I was all blocked off, and a friend of mine, Mickey Norris, he was doing what he was doing, and he was someone who everyone would say stay away from. And I had a sponsor, but this guy was doing as much for me as my sponsor was, because he was encouraging me to let go of things and to turn a corner. And he was talking to me about how free you can be inside and things like that. And yeah, I'll never forget him. And that's what I had from some members who'd experienced it, because when I was in that treatment centre, I'd listen to people going, I've been in here 7 times, and I go, 7 times? What the fuck is this? And I was talking to Paula before, there was a lad who was in me dorm on the twos, and he pulls a Kinder egg out with loads of white and brown, and I'd only been in there about 30 days or something like that. I thought there was something up with me because the obsession to use had been removed. I only knew about the obsession to use through reading the literature, through you guys coming up about that endless thinking, the ways and means, and finding ways and means to get more. And this lad bought the Kinder egg out, and I didn't want any of it. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I started threatening him for bringing gear in there, and he got rid of it. And I remember saying to a member who was working there as a counsellor, what the fuck is up with me? What's up with me? How come I don't want to use no more? It was just, it had gone. It had gone from me. You know what I mean? And it's hard to make sense of things in them early days. It really, really is. But being in that place and listening to you guys when you were coming in and sharing with me, you know, about your recovery and that, you know what I mean? A lot of them were addicts who'd suffered horrific relapses. Like I can, like yourselves, there's many members who I can talk about who've relapsed, or, you know, it's not for me to sit here and judge how someone lives their life, right? And I'm glad no one gave up on me and the life I used to live. You know what I mean? And that's what I've had since I've come here. You know what I mean? And I used to go back to Liverpool, and there was like 2 meetings, and it used to really fucking affect me. You know, I'd be up here in Bristol, going from meetings there up here to Western, and just walking along these beaches. I had a mate down here, Gary, he used to walk the dog here. He had a little Jack Russell called Nugget, and he was another member who'd relapsed constantly and do what he used to do. But he was someone who never gave up on me too. You know what I mean? Because there's times in here you feel like you want to see the grass on the other side of the street when you're looking at people pulling up at meetings in the cars, and they're doing what they're doing and that. So if you're a newcomer like I was, and you see that and you want that, there's a price to pay with that. It really, really is. And I know this, that the price I paid to stay in this way has kept me here, you know what I mean? Because I've got, you know, a lot of hard-won experience here through, you know, doing the wrong things and getting to the right things. Sometimes it's the most profound, painful experiences in our recovery. I remember doing a 4th and 5th step with me sponsor, and that, you know what I mean? And you know, the compassion that he showed me, and it was in the Elephant and Castle. I always remember the words he was saying to me. He's going, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault," because I was sharing before about my brother, and you know, I blame myself for my brother's death. You know, my brother was gay, I give him an horrific life, as I shared here about. There was a time when I was 7, he was 5, and he was getting abused. And to stop him getting abused, I put myself in that position where I was abused. And it was a friend of the family. And this isn't why I used and anything like that. It was just something that I held on to for years, and I thought, if I'd have protected him more, he would never have died, you know what I mean? Because when my brother died, after that first meeting, it was something I had survivor's guilt, you know what I mean? I survived, and because of my lifestyle and the way I was, I held out an awful lot, you know what I mean? And I remember, you know, writing letters, going to his grave, and things like that, and changing my attitude towards people, you know what I mean? And that wasn't just in people of different sexual orientation, that was to people from other places and that, do you know what I mean? Because, you know, through working the steps and having amends and reconciling with myself and being able to forgive myself, I've been able to be someone I've never been able to be, you know what I mean? Because one of my biggest fears was closeness, of being close to others. And that was something I could never kind of accept, you know what I mean? And it was like the times when, you know, I read letters and went to my brother's graveside with my mother. They were like, they were some of the most important times for me, you know what I mean? And yeah, you know, they say meet makers make it, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I sent someone a message today, and he's a member from up here who helped, he helps an awful lot of members. He helped an awful lot of members in Liverpool. And when I was speaking to you before about a friend of mine, Lee, and I went into talking about relationships, there's a part where he come to my house and he fell out with his partner, and I'd just finished a new marriage. And I've been married for 14 years. I've been with her for 14 years. In the last 7 years, because of her illness, she was bedridden at times, she was broken, she had fibromyalgia and depression. And it's tough to see someone you love go through that. And, you know, for 7 years I stayed loyal to her and tried to care for her and be there for her. And I lost myself in that process, I'll be honest with you. But, you know, I had to come out of it. And as I was coming out of it, he was coming out of his relationship. And I'm not one of them addicts who will come to meetings and say I'm all right when I'm not. You know, when I'm broke, you'll know when I'm broke. And there was times here when I was broke. And my dad had passed away shortly beforehand. My mother had passed away. I was at the UK convention, waiting to share. I was in a room with my sponsor, and I went back to Liverpool in 9 days. I was by my mother's bedside, and she passed. And I held her hand until she went from this world. And that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do in my life, is like, let me mum see me stay clean, no matter what happened, you know what I mean? But it was after that I split in my marriage, and he was splitting up in his relationship. And if you split up in here, things break up. And it broke up with me, and I said to him, I said, look, what you can do is, you can stay, because he had a lot of anger and self-pity and fucking rage, and I'm not someone for sitting down listening to them. You know, we say in here, suggest some things. Sometimes you've got to be really fucking direct in here. I don't know what's happened with NA, but it seems like a bit fluffy. You know what I mean? You know, like when you can't say to your mate, look, what the fuck are you doing? And like that, and you know, don't be appropriate and you speak to me like that. And your mates start taking issue with you. But, you know, when you can see a relapse happening way before it happens, you've got to, you know, because some members in here go, I can see that happening, or I told you so, and things like that. And I asked them to stay with me, and I pleaded with them because I could see what was happening, you know what I mean? And then he took his life, like, you know what I mean? I didn't take mine, you know what I mean? I come here and stay connected with you, but you know, staying clean must come first in here. And I think part of staying clean is accepting at times you're at your worst, you're at your most broken, and it's okay to not be okay at them times. You know what I mean? I've been carried through it, I've been held through it, you know what I mean? And it was like, you know, when my mother died, I sat in the room for an hour with her, with just me, a body, And I put a few messages up on Facebook because every one of you were carrying me at that time, you know. Every one of you. And their members shared about surviving and getting through that stuff. And the top and bottom is relapse and recovery can be a choice in here. Relapse is never an accident, it is a choice. And I can honestly put my hand on my heart and share this with you that I've never once felt like relapsing. There ain't no situation, no circumstance, no love, no loss that's happened in my life that I've lost that's made me want to relapse. The people who have lost to relapse have my mother's life. What it's done for me is made me commit more to this program because my love, what I feel for you and the life that I've got in here is my second. And I'm 54, I was 54 the other day. I've been with a girl for a month now, as some of you most probably noticed. And life begins, they say, when you're 50. I know this, that I want to have the best years of my life now. You know what I mean? Even though my mum and dad have gone. You know what I mean? I'm an orphan. I was trying to write next to kin on something the other month in my house, and I got emotional about it because I didn't have a next to kin. You know what I mean? I was just going to write it, knowing the sly and but I just thought not applicable. But I've got a lot of love for the members in here. I've got a lot of love for our members who are in relapse. No one should ever be alone. You know what I mean? No matter how, because I've got friends who act out in relapse and rip the fucking life out of me. And it's very easy to give up. But in our 12th step, it says, it asks us to do this. It's very easy for us to live this 12th step by carrying this message to addicts who are very easy to be around and be with. It's carrying this message to the most difficult members that we find in our lives, that will find the most living rewards, you know what I mean? So each and every one of us have got members like that. The love that I've got in my life is because of you, you know what I mean? And I'm very, very grateful to this fellowship. I serve this fellowship. I feel duty bound to this fellowship, not because I want you to think highly of me, because of what it's given me and what it's provided to me in my life, because I can't put a name to what this program does for me at times, you know what I mean? So I'm going to leave you there, and let's enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll leave you.